It began over a century ago, on an ordinary Monday in April of 1910, in a city buzzing with horse-drawn carriages and the clatter of streetcars. Harold Wetherby, a meticulous banker with secrets as deep as his ledgers, vanished without a trace. Decades passed, the city moved on, yet the mystery lingered, locked away in forgotten offices and dusty records. Fast forward to the present, a young bookkeeper discovers a ledger that shouldn't exist, filled with transactions spanning 100 years, written in the unmistakable hand of the missing banker himself. Who is Harold Wetherby? How could time bend around his secrets? Tonight, we unravel a story of disappearance, obsession, and a mystery that refuses to stay buried. Welcome, to the legend of the banker who vanished, and returned. It began on an ordinary Monday in April of 1910. The city thrummed with the clatter of streetcars and the hurried footsteps of clerks and laborers, each chasing the elusive promise of prosperity. At the corner of Montgomery and Pine, Wetherby and Company stood with its austere facade, a private bank that had served San Francisco's elite for decades. Inside, Harold Wetherby presided over ledgers, balances, and bonds with the quiet authority of a man whose diligence was never questioned. Meticulous, respected, and secretive, Wetherby had a mind for numbers, and, as it would soon become clear, secrets. By all accounts, Wetherby's days followed a strict routine. He arrived each morning at 8:15 sharp, greeted his staff with a nod, and retreated to his private office, a room lined with dark mahogany, polished wood, and the scent of ink. But in April 1910, that routine was broken. One morning, he simply didn't appear. His clerk, a young woman named Margaret Simmons, assumed he was ill. Days passed. No note, no word, no hint of departure. Searching his apartment revealed nothing, no signs of struggle, no farewell. Harold Wetherby had vanished as though swallowed by the city itself. The disappearance became front-page news. Newspapers speculated wildly, had he been murdered by rivals? Had he fled with the bank's fortune? The truth seemed to vanish along with him. Wetherby had been entrusted with sums so vast they could change lives, or ruin them. Yet, for over a century, the only trace left behind was his meticulous record-keeping and a handful of brittle photographs. Over time, the story blurred into legend. Wetherby and Company changed owners, its marble floors and oak counters giving way to modern offices and cubicles. But the aura of disappearance lingered. Staff whispered about the missing banker, when elevators groaned at odd hours, or when old ledgers seemed tampered with. The city moved on, but the mystery remained suspended in time. Fast forward to the spring of 2011. San Francisco had transformed, skyscrapers now dwarf streets once filled with horse-drawn carriages. Gray and Baines, a boutique accounting firm, occupied Wetherby's old building. It was a quiet Thursday when Simon Drury, the new bookkeeper, noticed something peculiar. While reconciling an old ledger donated from the archives during renovations, he noticed handwriting that stopped him cold. Sharp, deliberate strokes, precise loops and curves that seemed impossibly familiar. The script matched Harold Wetherby's perfectly. Simon initially assumed it was a prank, a historian's joke, or an archival error. But the ledger contained detailed entries for transactions dated not in 1910, not even 2010, but spread across that entire year. Transfers, deposits, and calculations for assets that, according to city records, shouldn't exist. And they were all written in that distinctive hand. The discovery stayed quiet at first. Simon cross-referenced the accounts against city registries, expecting a simple explanation. There was none. The accounts were real, active, and traced to shell corporations and private trusts scattered across the country. Every trail pointed back to the same impossible source, Harold Wetherby. The mystery deepened. Grainy security footage showed a figure in the office at 3:13 a.m., just when the first entry appeared. The image was indistinct, but the outline suggested an anachronistic presence, a man in early 20th century attire, unaware of the modern world around him. And the handwriting, precise as ever, bore the personality of Wetherby himself, careful, exact, and calculating. Journalists, historians, and cryptographers examined the ledger. Handwriting analysts confirmed the script matched Wetherby's archived samples. But no explanation fit. Could he have faked his death, trained a successor to mimic him perfectly? Or was something stranger at play? Some quietly suggested the impossible: Wetherby had returned, in some form, from a century of absence. The entries themselves were uncanny. They were more than financial records, they were personal notes. In the margins, they referenced events from 1910, a storm flooding the Embarcadero, the opening of a new streetcar line, even Margaret Simmons' brief illness. Yet they also referenced modern technology, emails, digital currency, tech stocks that didn't exist in Wetherby's lifetime. Whoever wrote these entries was spanning time, blending past and present with unnerving precision. Gray and Baines eventually sealed the ledger, fearing legal and reputational consequences. But copies had already circulated in academic and paranormal circles. Conspiracy theories flourished. Some suggested Wetherby had mastered a method to cheat death. Others whispered of a curse or a pact. Simon, once a rational man, found himself staring at the ledger long into the night, wondering if time itself was less rigid than he believed. Sometimes, he could swear he heard the faint scratching of a pen from the sealed office, precise, patient, like a heartbeat echoing across a century. The city marched on around the old bank. Gray and Baines relocated, leaving behind echoes of Wetherby's hand in dusty cabinets and locked drawers. Tourists and locals passed by daily, oblivious to the century-old enigma hidden behind the windows. Yet the legend persisted, carried on whispered stories and cautious glances toward the second-floor office, forever frozen in time. Occasionally, Simon dreamt of the man in the grainy footage. Wetherby appeared at the desk, pen in hand, indifferent to the decades he had skipped. And when Simon awoke, he sometimes found a new entry, penned overnight, referencing events from the night before as if Wetherby had been there, watching, waiting. No one could explain it. Perhaps no one ever will. The stained ledger remains sealed, a relic of a man who vanished without a trace and yet, somehow, returned. It is a reminder that some secrets refuse to stay buried, and that time, no matter how certain we believe it to be, may have a way of bending for those who know its hidden rules. Because some fortunes are never truly lost, they wait, inked in shadows, for the eyes brave, or foolish, enough to find them.